Hello, YouTube. Hope you guys are doing well tonight. Today we're back with a video on some predictions. If you guys know what the Smite Professional League is, I do compete in that. Yeah, and I'm going to be doing some predictions over the next 10-15 minutes. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Go Scarabs. Maybe go check out our merch at the merch store. Go Scarabs. Enjoy video. That's the intro. Clip it, ship it, put it to Mario. We're gonna start with week 1. Tartarus Titans versus Camelot Kings. I think we just checked out the teams. This is the all-European team. They're gonna be playing on 200 ping each. They're all NA players. All these players are NA also. It's gonna be just an initial edge to the Titans. I think the Titans are gonna be a little slow off the rip. Cyclone and Aurora are still together, yes. Paul's a brand new mid for them. He plays very, very little like BMT. Benji's a new solo for Paul, and then Scary's not even a jungler. He's a solo laner. It's just something they're gonna have to get used to. The Titans, I feel like people are just gonna think they're gonna be good right off the rip. They do have talent, yes, but they have to mesh together. Smite is so much more of a team game than just being talented. Yes, they have talented individuals. All these players have at one point been considered the best in their role. Give them time. I think they'll be a little slow off the rip. I do think the Valkyries are going to be probably the worst team out the gate. I think Emil is not what he used to be. I think Raffer is not where he used to be also. Zeros is a really, really dominant personality. He's a more selfish style, and you have to put a lot more into Zeros than you have to do with most mid laners. I think Johnny is going to be a pretty big surprise for this team. I think it's kind of up to how he decides to play the jungle role. He's not bad for like SPL how he used to play, but it's definitely not the best way to play. Hyper carrying isn't really strong like it used to be. And then I think Ducky's a good soul laner. I don't think he's the best. I don't think he's the worst. I think he's a good soul laner. And there's actually a lot of good solos this year, so he may be in the bottom half. I think that the Titans will win pretty easily, but it's only because I think the Kings aren't going to be that strong, even though the Titans aren't going to be that strong either. The next team, Leviathans and Bolt. The Leviathans are the Latam team. Yeah, Yarkor, Ronnie, Shinto, Panatom, Julio. Obviously, the question marks are in the team. It's going to be Yarkor and it's going to be Julio. How does Yarkor perform in ADC? How does Julio perform in solo? I think their early game was never a strong point. Yarkor is going to make that worse. That net Ron Gu duo lane last year was the only reason that their early games had potential and they could stomp in games, was when net just got massive. And Yarkor isn't there yet. Julio also, in my opinion, is not as good as Yarkor was last year. I think Yarkor as a solo was better than Julio as a solo. I just didn't like this change when they made it. I think they're still going to be a fine team because Shinto, Panatom, and Rongi were a very, very strong 3v3. But I do think they're going to be a little underwhelming this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they finished 6th, 7th, 8th area. And the Bolts are the team of last year, except instead of, I think it was Variety / Sot, it's Haddocks. They were hot last year. They were very, very hot. I think this team is just going to be like weird. Again, if they can get ahead early and stomp early, if they allow Jake to just stomp and just farm everyone, and just play around Jake playing the map, this will be a good team. If they get into a problem last year where Lasbra has to carry, Ven has to carry, or they fall behind in duo, I think this team is going to struggle heavily. I do think that they actually will be, in my opinion, a better team in the first half, and then they'll slowly come back down to earth as all the other teams start going up. I think the Bolts are going to win this matchup, and I don't think it'll be that close. I think there's just too much pressure on this, like the Bolts team, and how much they can actually just push leads and stuff, that the Leviathans won't be able to handle it. So this team, Neil and Vote are going to be new together. Neil is a style of, he wants to be kind of a playmaker like Jake, but instead of putting farm into him, he's making plays by just starting fights and just getting abilities burned onto them. Vote is an ADC that will play well when he has space. I think Vote does play a little bit worse when he is getting pressured, and I think against heavy aggressive dual lanes or really kill heavy dual lanes, this team might struggle a little bit. This entire team is going to be one of the top in their roles. I think Cuvo is going to be huge. This team is going to revolve around Cuvo in the beginning of the year. Jungle is super, super important, and you're going to see by the time SPL starts how much jungle matters. If the jungle is going to be farming and just going to be leaving the lanes out on their own, and then the other guy is going to be permaganking, it's just kind of like 50-50 on how the jungler wants to play. And I think this team will be pretty mediocre. They're now switching out of playing with Cherry for the past 4 or 5 years, and now they're playing with Cuvo. Cuvo and Cherry are pretty different players and how they play. Cherry has those hyper carries, and Cherry's consistent. Cuvo's got really high highs and really low lows. It's something they're going to have to play around. If Cuvo can find those highs off the gate, I think this team will be strong. But if Cuvo does not look that strong, I think this team will struggle a lot. They obviously will always have their late game because Nika's late game, Darda's late game, Vote's late game are all just so clean. So I think if you do go to late game against these guys, it'll still be a tough game. And then Jade, Panda Cat, Polar Bear Mike, Hurry Wins, Sam, Fine, and Kabam coaching. Same team as last year, basically, except instead of Twig and Mid, it's Hurry Wind. And I don't think this team will be much stronger than they were last year. I actually think they'll be a little bit worse. They're going to take a little bit of regression back. It's so hard to lose 2 years in a row and be the same exact team that you were leading up to those years. Their hunger in that regular season may struggle to be there. I haven't talked to any of these guys personally about how they expect the regular season to go, how much they're trying, how much stuff like that. Just from an outside perspective, trying to do that is very hard. The amount of like just mental strength and mental competitiveness that you have to be able to compete for 3 years straight and compete in all the playoffs and win all the playoffs just to lose in World's Finals, that is a very, 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 very tough pill to swallow. And it's going to be kind of on Kabam to just make them stay focused the entire year. This may be a team that starts off really slow and actually looks very poor just because of that mental exhaustion, or they could be the opposite where they just ride really high and just compete really high like they've done for the past 3 years because they obviously have the talent. I actually do think Twig would have made this team better than Hurry. It's not like I don't think Hurry's going to be the best player, or I don't think Hurry's the worst player, but I think Twig actually did a lot for these guys, and they're going to be missing it a lot. It kind of depends on how Hurry transitions and plays with these guys now, but I do think they'll be a little bit worse than they were last year. However, I do expect them to still win this matchup pretty convincingly because I don't think the Onis are going to be that strong out the gates. Now, us and Bolts, our team, Zap, me, Baronic, Lair, Shot, and then the Bolts, Barra, Jake, Ven, Laz, Haddix. I've already talked about the Bolts, so I'll just kind of go into the matchup. So like I said, these guys are always going to be playing through duo. That is their strength. That's what they do. If they're requiring Laz, Ven to carry with Jake and Barra not being ahead or being even, I think this team will struggle. I think Haddix is a good solo laner. He's going to do what he needs. If he gets ahead, he can carry. If he falls behind, he may feed a little bit. Maybe not feed, but he might not play that great. Haddix doesn't really change much compared to Sot or Variety. Or maybe a little bit with Sot, but less with Variety. Variety was kind of the same player as Haddix is. They both kind of just do well if they get resources. If they don't get resources, they do fine. If they get camped a little bit, maybe they die a little bit. It happens. But yes, this team plays through duo. I think for us, I don't want to talk too much about our game because it's obviously our game. I think we do win this game because I think we know how to beat these guys and we know what we need to do, and I think we are playing very strong. I'm not going to be talking too much in depth about our stuff because I don't want to give anything away. I'm just going to be kind of going over the other team that we're playing against. J Dragons and Camelot Kings. Net, Genetics, Twig. Oh, Twig. So this is Twig. Tins and Variety. I think this team is going to struggle mightily. I don't think this team meshes that well. I think it's kind of a couple players thrown into the mix. I don't know exactly what their plan's going to be in games. I think Variety's a beast. I think Twig is going to be fine. I think Tings is going to be fine. I think Genetics is going to be fine. And I think Net's going to be fine. However, I don't think there's any strength to this team anywhere. Net, Genetics have never played together. Maybe they just mesh together perfectly and their dual lane is just a dream come true. There's going to be language barriers between Europeans and Americans. And then there's Latin Americans and Europeans. Like, there's going to be a lot of trouble communicating there that a lot of teams aren't going to have to deal with. Zap and I are both American. We don't have like a little bit of British thing. Like it's like playing with Vote. It's hard to understand Vote sometimes. Communication's a big thing. So I do think the dual lane will struggle a little bit. Twig's getting back into jungle. He hasn't played with Tings before. Variety's just kind of tossed in there too. I don't think this team is going to finish that well, but I think they're going to be meh. And then the Jade Dragons, we already talked about them. I think Jade is going to be fine. I think they're going to pretty handily beat the Kings. And then I pick us over the Valkyries. Valkyries, Emilita, Raffer, Johnny, Zeros, Ducky. I just don't see a big strength to this team. They really don't have a coach either. Their team just doesn't seem that strong. Maybe all being European, there's a little bit of meshing there, but I think they just have clear kind of weaknesses. I don't expect them to be that strong. And they're going to be my pick for the worst team this year. Emel's a world champ, isn't he? Yeah, but that was 3-4 years ago. How much does a coach? It depends on the coach and it depends on the team. Some coaches are allowed to do a lot more because the team allows them. Some coaches don't do much because the team doesn't need them. Sometimes the coach does a lot. Leviathans and Titans. I'm actually going to agree with the 88% here. The beginning of the year kind of depends on just how a meta plays for a team and how a team meshes together. I think the Leviathans don't lose too much and the Titans lose a lot in both regards. Because it's a new year, aggression always reigns supreme at the beginning of the year. And I don't think the Titans are going to be able to do that very well, especially when the Titans have been together for so long. I do think that there is a chance the Titans win, but I think the Leviathans should have this game pretty handily. Well, I'm picking the Oni Warriors for this one. Like I said, my pick for the worst team this year is going to be the Valkyries. I think that the only teams that they kind of beat are the Kings and maybe take a couple off like the Bolts if they're playing sloppy, the Leviathans if they're playing sloppy. I think in most cases, they're just too outmatched. They're too out of their element kind of in how long they've been out of the SPL. And they're playing on EU too. So even if they were like a good team, they're playing on EU. Makes it a lot harder to play. I think that they're going to be pretty handily be here. Us versus the Oni Warriors. I'm predicting us. Jade Dragons, Tartarus Titans. I think the Titans are going to be very underwhelming to start the year. I've said it a couple times. I think they'll probably be bottom half, if not like 6 or 7. I think Jade will beat them pretty well. I don't think it'll be necessarily that close. Like, so far I have them just beating Camelot because I don't think the Cans are going to be that good. The Bolts, Valkyries. I don't know how the Bolts will really lose this game. I don't think the Valkyries can really stop the Bolts' aggression. If they maybe can get to some late game fights and win, maybe. But I think Jake and Barra will probably just... Jake, Barra, and Laz will win this game. And the last one, Leviathans and Kings. I think the Leviathans are just slightly better of a team than the Kings. Like I said, Kings, Valkyries are my two worst... Or my two bottom pick teams. Those are the first two picks. Or first 2 weeks for predictions. So I guess I'll just go over the top 8 quick. Number 8, Valkyries. 7, Kings. 6, Titans. 5, Leviathans. 4, Bolts. 3, Warriors. 2, Dragons, and us at 1. We did it. We did it.